On the shore of the Pacific Ocean sits a small country, just a little bigger than Great Britain. The country is named for the latitude on which it sits, the equator that divides the northern and southern hemispheres. Ecuador is home to a stunning diversity of landscape and culture, from volcanoes to the amazing rainforest. From the Spanish to the Inca, Ecuador is a culturally rich country where everything is a touch exotic and extremely exciting. From the capital of Quito, we'll head for the Amazonian rainforest. After crossing the Andes by train, we'll stop by the ancient city of Ingapirca for a taste of history before heading on to Guayaquil, Ecuador's largest city. Come join us on our all-inclusive tour of Ecuador on the joy of touring. The sun rises on Quito, the capital of Ecuador. Founded by Conquistador Sebastián de Belalcázar in 1534, the city is almost 5 centuries old, but with a young population of more than 1.5 million, Quito is thoroughly modern. The city is situated around 3,000 meters above sea level. The sunlight is stronger and more intense around the equator, so don't forget your sunscreen. But the heat in this country doesn't only radiate from the sun. The Ecuadorians of today are descendants of Spanish colonists and the Incan people, and they are proud to carry on their traditions. On board our private minibus, we meet our guide, Jorge Luis. He explains that we're on the road toward the historical center of Quito, one of the first places ever to be declared a UNESCO heritage site. The historical center has not changed much from when it was built in the 16th century, with its narrow cobbled streets, ornate balconies, wooden doors, and brightly colored homes. At the end of Venezuela Street, we have an unparalleled view of El Panecillo Hill, towering above Quito, crowned by a statue of the Virgin. We have a look around Independence Square, where a monument stands in honor of the heroes of Ecuador that liberated the country from its Spanish rulers. We fall into step with the marching band and are immediately swept up in the celebratory mood. The square is lush and green, surrounded by many important historical buildings, including the presidential palace. Another side of the plaza is occupied by the magnificent City Hall, the building a celebration of Spanish colonial architecture. Just steps away, the Church of the Society of Jesus is a marvel that shouldn't be missed. Construction of the Jesuit church began in 1605, only to be completed 160 years later. The interior of the intricate Baroque structure is profusely decorated with gold leaf, making a tour of the church an eye-opening experience. Leaving the capital behind us, we head towards Mitad del Mundo, situated 22 kilometers north of Quito. The name means middle of the world, which refers to its location right on the line that separates the northern and southern hemispheres. In Mitad del Mundo, we can straddle the equator, standing at 0 latitude, with 1 foot in either hemisphere. The equator stretches over 40,000 kilometers around the world, passing through 14 countries, including Indonesia, Brazil, and Kenya. Jorge Luis shows us surprising phenomena that can be witnessed on the equatorial line. A guide shows us how water goes down the drain of a sink, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere and clockwise in the northern hemisphere. But what happens if we place the sink directly on top of the equator? Does it really go straight down without turning at all? Is it an illusion or a scientific experiment? And does it matter? We're simply enjoying the show. The equally balanced forces of the northern and southern hemispheres also apparently allow you to stand an egg on the head of a nail. As the Ecuadorian sun sets in the west, the first day of our tour comes to an end. After a comfortable night in Quito's Hotel Embassy, a modern establishment with excellent service, we get ready to explore other parts of Ecuador. Our guide advises us to wear our good walking shoes. We'll be on foot for much of the day, first in Calderon, then on to the Otavalo market before heading for Cotacachi. Before going to shop at the most famous market in the country, we have a short stop in Calderon. The village, set high in the mountains and volcanoes, is known for its mazapan, beautiful, brightly colored figurines made out of bread dough. Handcrafts also occupy a place of honor in the Otavalo market, where locals have been meeting to sell their products for centuries. In fact, Otavalo has 3 different markets located a few kilometers apart, each with a different purpose, one for food, one for animals, and one for crafts, held every day in the Plaza de Ponchos. Ecuadorian locals and tourists mix in the crowd of shoppers. As the indigenous Otavalinos are renowned weavers, an explosion of color and texture is on display daily at this market. The selection is overwhelming, including alpaca wool blankets, hammocks, knitted hats, and many, many other products. It's important to take the time to get a good price. To do otherwise would be an insult to the seller. We leave the market for a bite to eat at the Casa de Hacienda, a bright and cheerful hotel restaurant that serves regional food. We finish up our day in Cotacachi. At 3,064 meters above sea level, you've got to have a good set of lungs to play the flute with so much enthusiasm. While residents of the city make a wide variety of handicrafts, the main industry in Cotacachi is leatherworking. The village's internationally renowned leather workers make extremely high-quality products that make excellent souvenirs and gifts for family and friends back home. We'll spend the night at the Pueblo Viejo in Cotacachi. This former hacienda has been converted into a hotel with spacious, comfortable rooms where we are guaranteed a peaceful night at the foot of the volcanoes. We're on the 4th day of our tour through Ecuador, and the sun is shining through our window. We're ready to get going. As well as having been awarded a UNESCO Peace Prize, the city of Cotacachi proudly serves as the gateway to the vast nature reserve of Cotacachi Cayapas, which will be our first stop today. Climbing up a narrow stairway, our guide promises us that the view from the top is well worth the effort. And how right he is. Formed in an ancient crater, the magnificent Lake Cuicocha spreads below us. At 200 meters deep, the expanse of water sparkles at the foot of the dormant Cotocachi volcano.
On n'est pas fort, on n'est pas mort. On y est arrivé. On a tous le vouloir. Merci. Ah, c'est bon, oui.
Ouais.
Awed by such richness of natural beauty, some of us are in danger of missing the bus.
Non, mais il peut pas partir sans nous.
But no one is left behind when we get back on the road toward the Amazonian floodplain, ready to delve into the rainforest. In fact, the Amazon jungle occupies a large part of eastern Ecuador, to the great delight of the nature lovers in our group. The Equador passes through the town of Cayambe, where a 54-meter-wide sundial has been built to demonstrate the astronomical knowledge of the Inca.
Je suis au nord toujours. Je suis au nord. Je cherche le sud. On est passé. On est passé au sud. Voilà.
We can determine the time, the month, and the season from the shadow the structure throws on the ground, but only when it's sunny out. Did you think the sun would always be shining near the equator? As we continue to head toward the Ecuadorian Amazon, sunlight becomes more and more scarce. To get to the Amazonian floodplain, we have to cross the Andes mountain range. The forests in this region are called cloud forests because they grow in a constant cover of low-hanging clouds. At 4,100 meters above sea level, we're now at our highest point in our trajectory. But what goes up must come down, and our group is no exception. Gradually, we feel our bodies relax, getting rid of the stress caused by the higher atmospheric pressure. In quite a short time, we descend from 4,000 to 400 meters above sea level on Ecuador's Amazonian floodplain. Occupying almost half of Ecuador, this region is called the Oriente, as it is located to the east of the Andes Mountains. The sheer fertility of the land is awe-inspiring. The warm climate and plentiful moisture in the air means that absolutely everything is green and lush, punctuated by sparkling tributaries that rush toward the great Amazon River. To spice up our trip a little, Jorge Luis suggests that we put our sense of taste and our sense of adventure to the test at the same time. Mayones are beetle larvae that live in the palm trees in this region. They are skewered and grilled, and when they stop moving, they're ready to be eaten. The most courageous among us note that mayones taste a little woody, but really, they're not too bad at all. After all, traveling is a great opportunity to experience new things. To reach our hotel, not far from Ajuano, we have to leave our bus behind and take a motorboat. Rocked by the waves of the Napo River, we soon arrive at the Casa del Suizo, a 75-room lodge in the middle of the rainforest. The name means Swiss house, and it's a bit of a paradox. Who would expect such a modern, luxurious refuge right in the middle of the Amazon jungle? It's an ideal place for us to spend the night. In the morning, on the tranquil shores of the Napo River, we have a hard time believing that the village of Ajuano, with its dynamic Quechua-speaking population, is right next door. For a trek into the Amazonian rainforest, rubber boots are indispensable. Today's excursion will be quite an experience, both instructive and surprising. We We start off in the Misacocha Protected Forest area, where we'll meet our guide for the day. The fact that he's hiking in his bare feet is a clear sign that he's done this before. He tells us that it's extremely important not to wander off, as the Amazonian rainforest in Ecuador stretches over 138,000 square kilometers. The Ecuadorian Amazon may be less well known than that of Brazil, but is certainly no less rich. The dense rainforest contains a wide variety of trees, vines, and jungle plants that provide habitat for an equally extensive variety of fauna. The inhabitants of the Amazon must come to terms with the lushness of their environment. At a very young age, children learn to survive in the jungle using both imagination and pragmatism, two vital qualities that are passed down from one generation to the next. We stay alert in the enveloping silence of the rainforest. We don't want to miss a thing. Our guide shows us one of the advantages of bare feet in the jungle. In 3 seconds and with breathtaking agility, he's up at the top of a tree. Tearing off a branch, he brings it down to show us one of the rainforest's little-known but extremely important sources of food. The rich proteins inside this completely ordinary branch can sustain a starving man. So what's inside? Edible ants, which offer a small boost of energy to those who dare to eat them. The taste is slightly citrusy, but not unpleasant.
Ça va, ça va. José, viens prendre des vitamines.
Chacun son tour.
Ah, ça lui va bien.
After a little accessorizing, our trek through the Amazon rainforest continues, and we become more daring and adventurous with every passing minute. Crossing over an impassable section of jungle in a hanging basket? No problem. We soon arrive at a place where the vegetation is less dense, giving us a magnificent view of the Napo River, which flows into the Amazon. Once the excursion is over, we head back to our hotel by boat, while a few adventurous souls choose to return by raft. Maybe this unaccustomed diet of grubs and ants has gone to their heads? We wake up this morning to the soothing sounds of the Amazon rainforest. We leave our lodge excited to be back on the road, exploring the hidden gems of Ecuador. The bus stops, allowing us to observe the majestic Pastaza River. At 740 kilometers long, it begins high in the Andes Mountains, eventually flowing into the Amazon River. Ecuador is an incomparable marvel of nature. On the way, Jorge Luis decides to spoil us, sharing with us the fruit that is the pride of the country. Passion fruit is to Ecuador what kiwis are to New Zealand. The magnificent Pastaza River goes over many sets of rapids and falls, descending over 4,000 meters on its way to the Amazon. The Payon del Diablo Falls, translated as the Devil's Cauldron, lets us see the river in an entirely different way. At the Devil's Cauldron, we are a stone's throw from one of the highest waterfalls in all of Ecuador. Further on, we have the opportunity to get a bird's eye view of the splendor of the Pastaza. If anyone on our tour was expecting to see Ecuador through the windows of a tour bus, they have another thing coming. On the other side, we're ready to get down. But not so fast. Off we go to Banos, a village situated at the foot of Tungurahua, where the spring water is reputed to have curative powers. The name Banos refers to the thermal baths, a natural phenomenon caused by the neighboring volcano. Still active, Tungurahua's last eruption was in March of 2013. Our attention is drawn to the unique-looking jewelry in a window. The shop also sells some very special sculptures. Are they made of marble? Of wood? Nope, the sculptor carves them out of nuts. Many of the 20,000 inhabitants of Banos make a living from growing sugarcane. The city is also famous for its melcocha, a traditional candy that is similar to pull taffy, made from this local sugarcane. We're back on the road, heading for our hotel. Through the window, we can see the highest mountain in all Ecuador, which is a volcano that has been extinct for 10,000 years. At 6,310 meters high, Mount Chimborazo is colossal. Its peak is capped in snow all year long. We'll be staying at La Andaluza Hotel in the city of Riobamba, at the foot of this massive mountain. The sun seems to be on holiday this morning, but that doesn't dampen our enthusiasm for our visit to an ancient Incan city. But first, we're going for a little train ride in the small but welcoming village of Alossi. Visitors come from all over to experience a ride on the steepest railway in the world, which descends 765 meters down a sheer rock face. The train leaves from Riobamba and passes through Alossi before reaching the Nariz del Diablo, the Devil's Nose. Built at the beginning of the 20th century, the Transandine Railway links Quito to Guayaquil. Only a few parts of it are still operational today, including this small section that is steep enough to be nicknamed the Devil's Nose. The engineers must have had to use a lot of skill and imagination, as the terrain is extremely steep. The train embarks on a series of hairpin turns to get safely down the mountain. At the bottom of the Devil's Nose, we look up and we understand how the Transandine Railway was such a technological achievement. The weather has taken a turn for the worse, but we'll brave the rain to head out to the Incan ruins at Ingapirca. Fortunately for us, the rain was localized. It doesn't look like it's rained a single drop here. Located in a fertile valley, the archaeological site of Ingapirca is the best preserved Incan site in Ecuador. Although the indigenous Canaris and the Spanish also lived here for a time, the Incan ruins are the most fascinating. Archaeologists originally thought the location was a fortress, but extensive excavation and research revealed that Ingapirca was first and foremost a religious site dedicated to the sun. Jorge Luis tells us that this stone was used as a lunar calendar. The number of holes in the stone corresponds to the number of days in a lunar cycle. The circular structures that we see here are actually ancient granaries where the food was stored. And there, at the edge of the site, the Temple of the Sun overlooks the valley. This structure is the only one to have survived the passage of centuries. Typical of Incan architecture, the trapezoid shape can be observed in several spots throughout the site. The Inca observed the solstices and equinoxes in temples like this one, demonstrating their extensive knowledge of astronomy long before the arrival of the Europeans. In this mysterious valley, our day comes to an end. We wake up in Inca Real Hotel in the city of Cuenca. We have 2 days to go before boarding a plane for the legendary Galapagos Islands. We'll use these last 2 days to explore a few Ecuadorian cities, including the magnificent Guayaquil. This is Cuenca, third largest city in Ecuador. With its rich heritage and vibrant culture, it is considered by many travel journals to be one of the world's top 10 cities to visit. A gentle climate and beautiful architecture contribute to its reputation. As Cuenca was founded in the 16th century, the historical city center is composed of buildings from the Spanish colonial period. Ecuador is a strongly religious country, and Cuenca is home to an impressive number of churches, each one different, and each one contributing to the spiritual life of the city. One of the more awe-inspiring examples is the Catedral de la Inmaculada, also known as the New Cathedral. Its tiled blue domes are icons of the city. Built in the Romanesque style out of pink marble, the construction of the new cathedral lasted almost 100 years. Right next door, the old cathedral is smaller but just as pretty. Built in 1557, the centuries of spiritual faith that pervade this building are tangible. Incan ruins stand as a testament to the Incan presence in an early incarnation of the city, although they called it Tomebamba. In a moment, we'll be back on the road to visit a very special nursery. We're heading toward Equador, an orchid nursery. Founded in 1992, this family-run business is devoted to finding, conserving, and exporting these magnificent flowers. Equador is the largest company of its kind in Ecuador. On its 5-hectare field, 20 greenhouses contain over 2,000 different species of orchids. In this unique spot, we can even observe a few endangered orchid species. We come out of the Equador greenhouses quite fascinated. Before heading back to our rooms at the Inca Reel, we decide to stop for a moment to buy some fruit in a colorful market in Hualaseo. Delighted with our purchases, we spend the night at the Inca Reel dreaming about our fast-approaching trip to the Galapagos. This morning, we head for Guayaquil, the economic capital of Ecuador. On the way, our guide tells us that we can't miss this chance to visit a hat-making workshop. Along with the traditional Ecuadorian straw hats called toquillas, the workshop makes many other types and styles, including the classic Panama hats. Several of us are tempted to bring one home, but first we have to make a very difficult choice. As Guayaquil is on the shore of the Pacific Ocean, we have to cross the Andes yet again. This time, we'll head through El Cajas, an Ecuadorian national park. Although it's close to the equator, the region's high altitude and low temperatures produce tundra flora similar to that which grows in the Arctic Circle. On our way back down the mountains, Jorge Luis invites us to come have a look at a field of cocoa, explaining that the cocoa bean is processed into a paste that forms the basis for what we call chocolate. When eaten raw and fresh, the beans taste sweet and fruity, even a little citrusy. After our drive, we arrive in Guayaquil, also known as the Pearl of the Pacific. We quickly come to understand that we're in a lively and fast-paced city, in complete contrast with the tranquil rainforest we so recently explored. When we arrive, we notice the startlingly colorful neighborhood perched on the side of a hill. Las Penas, built on the eastern slope of Cerro Santa Ana, is one of the city's oldest neighborhoods and has been popular with the city's artists and bohemians for decades. The houses on these narrow cobbled streets are so colorful, they make us want to move right in. At the summit of Cerro Santa Ana, a lookout point offers an exceptional view of the Guayas River. But to get there, we have to climb up 444 stairs. The climb was well worth the effort. There's no better place from which to see all of colorful Guayaquil. Back at the bottom of the hill in Bolivar Park, we meet some of its friendly but cold-blooded occupants. Guayaquil may be the only city in the world to house such a large community of land iguanas right in the city center. The park has also been kind enough to provide them with a few reptile neighbors, the resident tortoises. We're off to find our hotel. We want to get some rest. Tomorrow morning, we're off to the Galapagos. At the Guayaquil airport, our group waits for the flight that will take us to the Galapagos Islands, the destination that will conclude our tour of Ecuador. Jorge Luis will stay behind on the mainland, and so we say our goodbyes and thank him for his guidance throughout the tour. The Galapagos archipelago is located in the Pacific Ocean, 965 kilometers from the South American coast. It's a group of over 20 islands that range from the size of a city block to the size of California. The islands of the archipelago are the peaks of ancient volcanoes, some of which are still active today. On the Galapagos, a large percentage of both the flora and the fauna is endemic to the islands, meaning that the species is found nowhere else on Earth. We arrive at our floating hotel. This is the cabin where we'll be staying for the next 3 nights. Our trek begins on North Seymour Island, discovered by the Spanish in 1535. We'll drop our anchor off the coast and go have a closer look in the Zodiac. From the moment our feet touch the ground, we meet some sea lions tanning in the sun. There are almost 50,000 of them on the Galapagos Islands. We were told that on the islands we'd be able to see animals close up. Now we can see they really weren't kidding. Between the boobies and the pelicans, we don't know where to look. Just a short distance away is a strange-looking bird called the frigate bird. The males have a bright red gular pouch that they inflate to attract a mate. This curious-looking reptile is called the lava lizard. The large iguana population that lives on the Galapagos is completely herbivorous. Here we can observe both land and marine iguanas, some of them up to 1.5 meters long. The blue-footed boobies are adorable. They're called boobies because of the clumsy way they walk on land, but their gracefulness in the air is beautiful to watch. The flora on the island is delicate and beautiful, just as impressive as the fauna. Our first day on the Galapagos Islands is coming to an end, and we're not the only ones feeling a little drowsy. Before retiring to our cabins, we relax on our vessel's sun deck and indulge in the tasty meal that has been prepared for us. While we sleep, the ship will take us the 150 kilometers to Genovesa Island, where we will go ashore tomorrow. Better known by its nickname, the Bird Island, Genovesa has an area of 14 square kilometers. We come quite close to a colony of masked boobies. While some of the babies are still too young to fly, others are already starting to imitate their parents. Red-footed boobies are the smallest in the booby family, but also the most colorful. A large portion of the unique fauna on the Galapagos is invisible on the surface. We grab snorkels and flippers and take to the ocean to see the multitude of species in the softly undulating Pacific. What an amazing experience it is to swim with the fauna of the Galapagos. At first sight, the next island looks a little foreboding. Made of lava, the island of Santiago seems sterile at first, when in fact the opposite is true. Every inch of the island swarms with life. It is truly a tropical paradise for crustaceans who can eat without danger of predation. Our visit to the Galapagos Islands has been an incomparable experience, especially for wildlife lovers. It reminds us of the importance of preserving fragile ecosystems and taking care of our planet. Our tour is over. Back on board, we'll head back to the mainland, where our flights are waiting to take us back home. To give us a perfect end to our adventure in Ecuador, a flock of frigate birds provides an escort over our vessel as the sun sets. There's no question about it. We're going to remember this special trip to Ecuador for a long, long time. With its richness of culture and its landscape that changes so drastically from one region to the next, Ecuador is a real kaleidoscope of a country where nature is generous and traveling is easy. Come with us on our next all-inclusive tour on The Joy of Touring.